Hi you guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Grace, and on this channel I make a lot of pregnancy, motherhood, twin mamahood, but sprinkled in there there's some family travel and adventure travel and things like that. So if that sounds like your cup of tea, I would love it if you would join us. Subscribing is absolutely free and it helps out my channel so much, you guys. Liking, subscribing, bell notification, comments, those things are all free and they help YouTube channels, especially small ones like mine, grow so much. So I appreciate that if you would consider doing that. But you can always just watch the video and see if you even like it and then make that decision. So anyway, let's see. Today's video I'm really excited about. This has been a long time coming, and this is going to be very much a girl chit chat, mom to mom or mom to new mom, future mom kind of a conversation. So if you want to go grab a coffee or a tea, I don't even have mascara on. I just forgot that. Hold on one moment. Okay, hi, I'm back with eyelashes. You guys, I have blonde eyelashes, so if I don't wear mascara, I just look like a hairless mole rat. Okay, so grab a coffee, grab a tea. I'm hoping that this won't be too long of a video. I do have a lot to go over. So basically what this video is going to cover is the 4th trimester. If you don't know what that is after you give birth. The first few weeks and months after you give birth. A lot of people think, oh, you know, I'm over this pregnancy, I've given birth, it's all gonna be magical rainbows. But actually the 4th trimester in a lot of ways is the hardest time. Yes, you have a beautiful baby or babies, but physically and emotionally and hormonally and recovering, it's hard. And so it's called the 4th trimester. So that's what I'm going to be talking about. I'm going to be talking about primarily those first 2 weeks postpartum, but some of the things I talk about will extend further than 2 weeks. Those first 2 weeks are so hard, you guys. Oh my gosh. It's insane. So I want to talk you through those. Also, I did have a C-section, so some of the things I talk about are going to be about recovery of a C-section. Even if you didn't have a C-section or you're not planning to, a lot of the things I say are still going to be relevant. Only a few of the things I talk about are C-section specific. But yeah, girl, we're going to get into it. I just drank my coffee. Naughty, naughty me. So I just have some water. But feel free to grab a drink. We're just going to have a girl chat. Woman to woman, mama to mama. I have a whole list of things during that whole 4th trimester. I just kept writing notes, so hopefully this will all be very helpful. Some of this is going to be pretty TMI, especially what we're going to jump into. The first thing is poop. So yeah, we're just going to jump right in. So your first postpartum poop or your first couple postpartum poops are very scary. I will admit, if you have like a natural, like vajayjay birth, probably your first postpartum poop is probably scarier because the idea of pushing when, you know, you've had all that trauma down there and maybe you have stitches down there is probably scarier. It's still scary with a C-section because you still have stitches. I mean, your stitches are in your abdomen, but everything is so jelly. Like, I heard that so many times, but oh my gosh. Like, after you've had a C-section, everything just feels like it's floating, like free floating in there. It's not, but it feels like that. And so having a bowel movement is pretty scary. So here are some tips for you. So I had my C-section Monday morning and I didn't have my first bowel movement until Friday. The hospital did ask me some questions throughout the time that I was there, like, have you had it? But they weren't super concerned. They were very concerned about whether I had passed gas, which I'm going to talk about that in a little bit. But the actual bowel movement, they weren't super concerned with. I know some hospitals are, like, they won't let you leave until you have a bowel movement. But mine didn't. When I did leave on Thursday, they said, like, if you haven't had one by this date, please give us a call. But I had it literally the next day. So anyway, what helped me so much were stool softeners. They gave me stool softeners while I was in the hospital, but I had been taking them pretty religiously since the second trimester. I talked about that in my second and third trimester videos, which I will link for you guys. But those helped me so much. Obviously, check with your doctor to make sure that they're okay with it. But my doctor was totally fine. He encouraged it, actually, and it helped so much. So by the time Friday came along and I had to have that bowel movement, it really wasn't that bad. So I would encourage you to consider taking stool softeners starting maybe in the second trimester. That's when I started, and it made my life so much easier. I also continued taking them for a few months postpartum, just as I recovered and healed from the C-section. So that helped me so much. Obviously, drinking tons of water, things like prune juice help as well, but stool softeners literally made that not a horrible experience. I was so scared that it was going to be awful, and it really wasn't that bad. So that's my tip. Stool softeners are your friend. Next up, let's talk milk, because for a lot of women, especially if you are hoping to breastfeed, milk is like a big deal and you're really, really curious about when it's going to happen. Some women do start to kind of lactate before they give birth. You're not supposed to pump before you give birth because that can cause you to go into labor, apparently. So if you start to leak a little bit, you can always catch it in like a haka and then freeze it. Your first little bits of milk that come out is called colostrum, and that is like liquid gold. It has so many nutrients and vitamins and important things for your baby, so you want to collect that if you can. For me, again, I had my C-section Monday morning. My milk really started to come in on Wednesday, and then it really was like fully in by Thursday. I had a scheduled C-section at 37 weeks in a day, which I think is why it really didn't come in super fast. Sorry, there's a hair. There we go. So if you're closer to 40 weeks, it might already come in by the time you give birth. Who knows? And so my hospital had me bring my pump, and I was pumping and pumping for those first few days to kind of encourage it. And then again, by Thursday, it was like fully in, and it was in. It was quite shocking, but good. So it'll just take a couple of days if it hasn't come in by the time you give birth. Okay, I talked about this a little bit in my C-section video, which I will also link that. But after I had my C-section, within that first hour, a lactation consultant came in and taught me how to breastfeed, which is important. They're supposed to do that because you want your babies to, if you're planning to breastfeed, you want them to get on the boob as quickly as possible. However, I have like major memory loss of that time, and I don't really know why. I don't know if that's common, but I literally don't remember anything that the lactation consultant taught me within that first hour. I think it's not that I have actual amnesia or anything, but I think I was just in like complete and utter overload because I had been so nervous about the C-section. So it was over, I was happy, but I was also like starting to like feel like my feet and pain and everything again. And I also had 2 babies, and I was just so overwhelmed that I literally just don't remember anything that she taught me. So if you are a first-time mama, whether you have a natural birth or a C-section, I would encourage you to have the lactation consultant come back in like a day or 2 later and reteach you all the things. They'll probably come in and check on you, but for me, it was like they'd pop their head in and they'd be like, "Do you have any questions?" And I didn't know what questions to ask. And I didn't want to be a bother. I'm so that person. I don't want to bother people. And I feel like other people need them more than I do, even though that absolutely wasn't true because I had 2 babies as a first-time mom, and they were both teeny tiny. And so I actually needed tons of help, and I didn't feel like I got that, unfortunately. So that's kind of a bummer with my hospital experience. I had a great hospital experience in general, but that was kind of like, I'm a little salty about that, to be totally honest with you. Next up, I will insert a very terrifying picture of my swollen legs and ankles and feet. So this can be a sign of preeclampsia. So you do need to be careful, but my doctors and nurses never were worried that I had that. But my goodness, my legs and ankles and feet swelled so oh my gosh, I don't even, engorged is the best word I can think. They swelled to an alarming rate after I gave birth. And they stayed that way for, I think it was basically exactly 10 days. But you guys, it was alarming. Like, my mom and my husband were just watching, and they were like, there is something severely wrong. But again, the nurses and doctors weren't that concerned. They did have like these kind of compression sleeve things that they put on my legs as I slept at night. And they helped, I'm sure, a little bit. My feet were too big to put on compression socks. If you're able to put on compression socks, try to, but mine were too big. Like, I literally couldn't even fit into my husband's shoes. That's how big my legs and feet were. The picture I'm going to show probably won't look that alarming, but it was very scary. So again, it lasted for basically exactly 10 days. On the 10th day, I was like, I think they're going down. So that is something that can happen. It just has to do with when you are pregnant, you have so much extra fluid in your body, whether that's extra water, extra blood. Your blood like doubles when you're pregnant. And so it takes a few days or a couple weeks for your body to sort that out and like get it out of your system. And so I don't think everyone has it as severe as I did, but if that starts to happen, don't be terrified. It will go away eventually. But your medical staff should be checking on that for you. Next up, let's talk passing gas, you guys. This is probably a little bit more specific to C-sections. So when they cut you open to get your baby out and then they sew you back up, a lot of times, or every single time, air gets trapped, okay? And so literally your stomach and your intestines and all that just has so much air in there, and that has to escape through farts. You guys, it was absolutely unreal. The actual pain of that was pretty intense, I'm not gonna lie, but also it made me appreciate farts more than I have ever in my life. Now I welcome farts. Like, so, you can fart in my presence at any time, because I see what a beautiful thing a fart is. Because for like days, I think it finally started to go down like maybe on Wednesday, but for days I was so bloated. I did occasionally pass gas. I started passing gas that first day, but like it just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and it was painful and it was alarming and scary and it felt weird. And so finally I told my husband and my mom, who were in the room with us pretty much the whole time, I was like, if I fart, this is a beautiful thing. Like, I'm not even going to try I'm not going to try and hold it in. If you're in this room, I'm going to be farting. Next up is something that I knew about, but I didn't really know the purpose. So I used it, but I didn't use it as effectively as I wish I had. And that is an ab binder. So when you give birth, a lot of people experience diastasis recti, and that is where your abs, because your stomach has expanded so much, your abs actually separate. And so, especially I had twins, so my stomach was very large, or if you have a very large baby, so your abs need to come back together. That is like a months and months and months and months and months long thing that has to happen. And there are exercises you can do, but wearing an ab binder for the first few weeks after birth is really, really important. Your hospital will probably supply you with one, but you can also purchase your own. So I did both. I actually really liked the one my hospital gave me, but then I also purchased some of my own, or one of my own. But it's basically just this stretchy, it's kind of like a waist trainer that goes around, and it just holds you in place. But I didn't really understand, because I just thought, oh, it's supposed to help like you not feel that jelliness, which is true, but it's literally holding things back together so you can start to heal together properly. So wear it as much as you possibly can. You're not even really supposed to wear it while you like sit down and lay down, because it's not super comfortable, but anytime you get up, you really need to be wearing it, and just wear it religiously for like the first month, really, or longer, maybe longer. But I didn't really understand the purpose of it, so I wore it off and on, but I really wish I had worn it more often. So, it's not uncomfortable, it's not painful or anything, but it's just kind of a hassle. But please just deal with the hassle and wear your ab binder, because it really, really will help. Next up, I am so annoyed that none of the nurses told me this. I had amazing nurses, don't get me wrong, but nobody told me after a C-section, don't laugh and don't cough. Or don't like big laugh. You can like, but don't like belly laugh, because you literally can rip your stitches. Don't let that scare you, but it's true. And a lot of times I think we don't realize when you do get sewn up, you'll either have stitches or you'll have staples, and they're on the surface. But you also have like multiple layers of stitches all the way down, because they have to cut through a whole bunch of layers to get to your baby. And so you can rip the ones on the inside of your body too, and then that is just a major, major hassle for them to fix those. So I had taken a nap. I think it was like on Tuesday. And I woke up from the nap mid-cough, like, and oh my gosh, the pain that I felt was so severe. Thankfully, I did not rip any stitches or staples, but my gosh, it was so painful. And then it's like a moment after I did that, a nurse came in and I was like writhing in pain, and my mom, I think, told her, she was like, she just coughed, and the nurse was like, oh, well, when you cough, hold a pillow, and like then she explained, but nobody told me that beforehand. But same with a laugh. So if you feel a laugh coming on or a cough coming on, take a pillow and hold it against your abdomen really hard, and then cough or then laugh. That will help. It's still not going to feel great, but it will help. So take that as a tip. Avoid coughing and laughing, belly laughs if you can, but if you really have to, take a pillow and hold it against you. That will help, because it's very unpleasant. Next up, we're going to talk baby blues / postpartum depression and anxiety. This is a very, very, very serious thing. So please take this seriously. Whether you end up dealing with actual postpartum depression and anxiety, or you just deal with something that's kind of called baby blues, pretty much everyone's going to deal with that, because after you give birth, you have so many hormones that are now trying to get back into balance, and so many that are trying to leave your body, that it can cause you to have insane roller coaster of emotions. Okay? I had heard, and I found this to be pretty true, that like after you give birth, day 1 and 2 is great, it's magical, it's beautiful, and then day 3 and 4 is when that hits you, and it's really true. So just be prepared for that. Day 3 and 4 is probably going to be really hard. So mentally prepare yourself and also your partner, whoever's around you. But the plus side is, usually that really lasts about 2 weeks for most women. After you hit like the 2-week mark post giving birth, a lot of times you balance back out. You still might experience some highs and lows, but a lot of the like insane emotions kind of balances out after 2 weeks. That does not happen to everybody. A lot of people, including myself, deal with postpartum depression and anxiety more severely afterwards. And that is the stuff you have to take seriously, you guys. Talk to your partner before you give birth. Have them check on you. They have to check on you. Okay, your partner, your parent, whoever is going to be close by, they need to be checking up with you, and they need to know how serious this is. Okay, after you give birth, mama is not the priority anymore. It's the baby or the babies, which, I mean, that's fine. It's true, but you leave the hospital or the birthing center and you don't have another appointment for a while. And so a lot can happen in that time. I had, in those first 2 weeks, I had a couple kind of like panic attack kind of things. That was really led on because my little baby B, she had a couple health problems, and our pediatrician talked about maybe having to put her back in the NICU. She never actually had to go to the NICU, but she lost so much weight in that first week that he was like, I think she's going to need to go back to the hospital. And being a first-time mama, postpartum, you talking about you taking my baby away from me, even though I know the NICU's a good place and a safe place and blah, 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 I just couldn't handle it. And I had like a major panic attack. Probably the worst panic attack I've ever had in my life. And then after those 2 weeks, my emotions and hormones did balance out, but then it came back for me a couple months later. So it can hit you anytime. I think it's really that first year, it can hit you at any time. So just be hyper aware of that, okay? Couple more things. If it looks like your babies are measuring small, like mine did, every ultrasound they were measuring, and like one was measuring at like 10 to 15 percentile in size, and the other one was like 2 to 5 percentile. So I knew they were going to be small, but I was not prepared with preemie diapers or preemie clothes. I should have had those ready. Thankfully, my mom was in town, and so she was able to go and grab those for us, but just try to have those ready. Thankfully, our hospital did have preemie diapers, but preemie diapers specifically, preemie clothes are kind of hard to find, but preemie diapers are specifically difficult to find. So that's why I'm saying it's good to, if your babies are already measuring small, go ahead and have those on hand. You can always return them if you don't end up needing them, but those are just more specific and they're a little bit harder to find. So if you can have those ahead of time, that would be great. Next up, getting out of bed is really, really difficult after a C-section specifically. So I thought it was hard getting out of bed, like being, big and pregnant. But no, getting out of bed post a C-section was actually harder. So a couple things can help. Don't try to just sit up straight. Always roll to your side and then get up. That really helps. Also, using a pillow to like press against you as you get up, that helps. That whole area is just like so tender and weird, and it's difficult. So also for the first couple weeks, just having your partner help you out of bed is really, really helpful. I also had one of those like incline kind of pillows that I slept on for a while, for the first few weeks postpartum, because then I didn't have to get up quite as far. I was already kind of an incline. So that was really helpful as well. Let's talk hair loss. So hair loss is extremely common. Most women go through it. My hair loss really started on week 10. I actually thought like, oh, maybe I'm not going to deal with that. But no, it hit me very, very hard on week 10 postpartum. When you are pregnant, your hair most likely will get really thick and luscious and gorgeous. And then you have to lose all of that hair. And then some. And so it is so alarming, the amount of hair that you lose. Like, it is scary. You think you're going to go bald. Some women do develop bald patches, which is really sad and scary. I didn't quite get that extreme, but oh my gosh, I lost so much hair. I have a very long hair, as you can see. So even just losing one strand is so long, and it's very alarming. On average, I read that you lose, like on a normal day-to-day basis, you lose about 100 hairs a day. So postpartum hair loss, you lose about 300 hairs a day. So it is quite a bit. Some women it lasts longer. For me, it really lasted about 2 solid months of like the scary hair loss, and then it started to taper out. I still, to this day, I mean, I'm almost 7 months postpartum, I still lose more hair than normal, but it's nowhere near as alarming as that. But that can last up to a year postpartum. So it just kind of depends. But again, for me, it was like started week 10, and it lasted for about 2.5 months of the really, really scary amount, and then it's tapered off. I left my hair down just so that you can see. It's definitely not as thick or full as it was, but it is a normal head of hair. So it does go back to normal. But I understand why so many women get the mom cut after giving birth, because it's like, I'm not going to have any hair left. I'm just going to chop it all off. And I almost did it. I haven't done it yet, but I understand. That's why women get their hair cut after they give birth, because they lose so much hair. Editing Grace here. Sorry, I forgot to mention bleeding, so I'm going to make this really, really quick. So if you have a natural birth, you're obviously going to be bleeding in that area, but that also happens with a C-section, and some people say you actually bleed even more with a C-section. And so that can last anywhere from, on average, I think it's around 4 to 6 weeks, and then you usually kind of stop. It can go up to like 12 weeks. And y'all, for me, it went like 11 weeks. And it was such a pain in the butt to begin with, but also it was kind of alarming. And I was like, why isn't this stopping? So if it goes past 12 weeks, or even maybe 15 weeks, then you really need to let your OB know. But it's just a pain in the butt. But just be prepared. You're going to be wearing pads and diapers and things like that for a significant amount of time postpartum. Last thing, let's talk C-section scar and stretch marks. Stretch marks is a very genetic thing. I didn't get stretch marks until the very, very, very end, like week 34, 35. And I didn't get them too bad. I did use, and I will link it down below, the Palmer's cocoa butter oil stuff. I've talked about it in a couple of videos. I used that since basically the second trimester. I would use it twice a day. And I think that really, really helped. And then my stretch marks have really, really faded, which is such a blessing. I'm very, very grateful for that. Stretch marks do tend to fade, so keep that in mind. But preparing your belly with oils and lotions and things, and then postpartum continuing to use them, that really, really helps. That also helps with stretchy skin. Do be careful what kind of ingredients are in the lotions and oils that you're using, because it's obviously going right onto your belly, which is right on top of your baby. And then the C-section scar, you guys, it doesn't bother me at all. Not at all. It is so low. Thankfully, the doctor that I have, I think he's especially like really, really good at C-sections. That's what everybody at the hospital was saying. They're like, oh, you're lucky. He's really good at C-sections. And so my C-section scar is so small. I don't even know how they got, and my babies were small, but like, I don't know how they fit through that. It is so small and it's so low. No one's going to see that C-section scar except for my husband. Like, even if I was wearing a really low bikini, like, no. Nobody's gonna see that. So I'm really not the least bit self-conscious about it. It's also a badge of honor. I had a major abdominal surgery to have my babies. And so I do have some scar medicine that like really doesn't do anything, but my C-section scar doesn't bother me at all. There are some different exercises you can do to help it to be more flexible, which you do want that, so you can look into that. But don't be super worried about the scar. Obviously, if you have to have like vertical C-section, you're going to have a more noticeable scar. But still, it's a badge of honor. Same with your stretch marks. They're not that bad. They're kind of beautiful, actually. So, okay, that is all. This was way longer than I planned it to be, but I hope this was helpful for you. If you have any questions, please comment down below. I love talking about this. I love encouraging you guys, helping you in any way that I can. So I hope that you found this helpful. I can hear my babies waking up from their nap, so I gotta go take care of them. And please consider subscribing and liking this video and all that kind of stuff. I would really, really greatly appreciate that. I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye.